Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman live with us this evening. Good evening, Ms. Sitharaman. This is Anand Narasimhan here. Can you hear me, Nirmala ji?
Yes, I can, Anand. Good afternoon.
Now, the first question that comes to mind is the timing of these big bang reforms that have been announced. Is it to neutralize what's been doing rounds over the weekend, the talk everywhere, exit of Raghuram Rajan?
These are major reform-based decisions of the government which cannot be done overnight. They have been in the works for a few months, and once we reached a conclusion, it was our duty to announce it. It just so happens that it is today.
But it is also, but you would also appreciate the timing, even though you might call it a coincidence. Do you believe that the markets have responded to your call of the reforms rather than Raghuram Rajan announcing his exit?
Well, these are major initiatives of the government. It is going to have a repercussion on manufacturing in India. It is going to have an impact on creation of jobs. So it is only natural that the markets respond to it. And it is only natural that the industry is interested in knowing what are the details, how are they going to pan out, and so on. So the interest coming from the markets and from the industry is only understandable.
What is the most standout aspect of these the sectors that have been opened up? If you were to pick up one or two of the sectors which you believe will show immediate response to the government's measures, which would you want to highlight?
Well, I think the selection of sectors are done with an intention of making sure that India will become a manufacturing hub. India has to become a manufacturing hub because we have a big market domestically, and we have a youth, the demographic dividend that we talk about, which is ready to participate in manufacturing in terms of contributing with their skills, and the Skill India program is strengthening that. So for a manufacturing sector to come here and develop here, manufacturing sector to be developed here with investments is going to create jobs and to make manufacturing, make India a manufacturing hub through which you will service the domestic demand as well as provide jobs, and the excess that you produce can also be exported. So the selection of sectors today is done with an intention of, one, extending the decision that we've announced in this November of 2015, taking it further and ensuring that India is going to become a manufacturing hub to provide jobs for us, and also to make sure that India really produces not just for itself but also to cater to the world.
Is there a timeline set? I'm given to understand that these reforms come into effect with immediacy, but have you set a goal or a timeline or an objective in terms of the number of jobs that need to be created, the sectors, the areas where you're looking at immediate investment?
I wish I can do that, but the point is we are talking about different sectors, some of which are capital intensive, which also will have to do a lot of recruitment, but there the time lag will be a bit longer. But there can be other sectors like food retailing, which was an announcement made in the budget itself, which can immediately, like for instance the private security, with some training and with some months of lag, they can provide huge number of jobs. So each sector has its own timeline for maturing the investments and grounding the projects as much as creating the jobs. So it may not be possible for me to at one go say all these investments are going to happen in various sectors, thus creating from tomorrow this many number of jobs. That's not the nature of things. It is different for different sectors.
Now, let's take one sector by, you talked about food products, and how much is it going to impact in the current scenario? Let's take defense. 100% FDI in defense is a huge step. But is there a fine print? Is there a detail in terms of transfer of technology?
The detail about defense is we already, in the existing policy and in the new policy, it will be that in order to comply with all the national security requirements, every due diligence that has to be complied with will be complied with. The new policy does not dilute that at all, because defense is such an area where there is immense potential to produce, but also the national security angle has to be kept in mind, and that is something which has not been compromised with. But we understand that the investment coming in defense can also immediately have an impact on creating ancillary unit hubs, which can produce a lot of jobs very quickly, and these units can mushroom around many of the centers which are waiting to develop. That's about defense. But when you're talking about food retailing, which is a commitment made by the finance minister in the budget, it is possible to generate jobs quicker, earlier than many other sectors.
Let's talk about the aviation industry, especially the two standout announcements that have been made, brownfield airports and also in terms of scheduled airlines, investment in scheduled airlines. But many people from the industry believe as far as the investment in airlines is concerned, it's not going to have too much of an impact. Why that decision has been taken? Where do you see the impact happening? And also talk a little on brownfield airports. How do you see FDI kicking in?
First of all, the decision on civil aviation is going to be in line with and in support of the policy announced, civil aviation policy announced just a week ago. So the civil aviation policy which was announced will gain greater traction by this FDI decisions on civil aviation. Remember, in the civil aviation policy, we spoke about many airstrips in India which are lying without being utilized, and many parts of India which are not getting connected. Now, we will be able to have greater flight reaching out there, getting them connected to other hubs which are already well connected. Now, these are not things in which without investment developments can happen. So this policy, FDI policy in civil aviation, is only going to give greater traction to the policy in civil aviation that was announced last week. And therefore, I think the details about brownfield or the existing airlines are all going to fall in place with the policy which has come into play. We are only making sure that level playing field is provided for all the airlines companies. Companies which need more greater cash infusion, investment coming in, will have to be given that opportunity. And with that, we think there will be a greater open sky policy. And I understand from the little research that we've done, this is going to be in India one of the biggest steps. And compared to many other even advanced countries, this decision on FDI in civil aviation is very progressive. And this is typical of this government, where we have given you an opportunity to expand, open up, free up for giving the Indian citizens an affordable flying experience.
Ms. Sitharaman, Supriya Shrinate of ET Now also joins us as you join us on this broadcast, and we are going live on Times 9 on ET Now. Supriya, your question to the Commerce Minister.
Thank you very much, Anand there, and Madam, congratulations for the big decision that your government has taken. My question to you really is, what kind or what quantum of FDI inflows are you expecting? Let's begin sector by sector. Aviation, many people believe, is the big step that you've taken. 100% FDI in aviation, something that governments had not thought of in the past, so that's a very bold move. But what sort of FDI are you expecting to flow into that sector to begin with, ma'am?
Well, first of all, you know that we are already #1 in FDI inflows. India has kept up that position till now. Now, with this announcement in the FDI easing, I guess that will even more gain momentum, and we will be able to retain our position as the topmost country in receiving FDI. Now, sectorally, how it's going to play up, I like to make guesses, but I guess each sector, the way in which we've opened up, the way in which we have eased norms, I guess they will be equally competing for investments. And each sector has the potential in itself, because take for instance pharmaceuticals.
Right.
India has already made a global impression on generic drugs, and we have great potential in that area too. So each sector will compete, and there are investment opportunities being created, interests being shown by many overseas investors in every one of these sectors. So I may not be able to put a number today to all that, but then yes, there are opportunities waiting to be materialized.
I'm not going to push you on a number there, but I have a question on defense manufacturing, and that's another very bold move. 100% FDI allowed, of course, with government approvals there, considering it is a sensitive sector. And for years now, the security bogey has kept defense away from investments. Again, what sort of interest are you envisaging there? I don't want you to speak about the numbers, but the kind of partnerships we will perhaps see with global investors and, of course, the Indian partners that they will be coming in with.
See, we are very conscious about defense from the point of view of national security. What we have done here is not to sideline the requirements on national security. All the compliance which are required for national security purposes will still have to be done. And many of the Indian corporates which have shown interest in this sector will be given the necessary impetus and push. It is not as if they are going to be there, but FDIs are coming or companies are coming from abroad to set shop at the cost of the Indian manufacturers who are interested in defense manufacturing. We are creating an environment where money can flow into manufacturing in this sector, because India is a very big captive audience, in the sense we are a very big spender on defense procurement. And if we are able to buy so much but of goods produced abroad, why not create the environment here, manufacture here, buy for our defense requirement, and over and above what we buy be exported.
Ms. Sitharaman, was your
Indian producers?
Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. Was your hand forced? Was the government's hand forced as far as allowing 100% FDI in defense was concerned? Was this the message that you got when you sought partnerships to make in India, that unless we have full control, we will not come down and manufacture in India?
And ma'am, if I can add a question there, has that in some sense distorted a level playing field between the Indian players who wanted to be a part of defense manufacturing versus the global biggies who will come in now?
Supriya, I wasn't able to hear your question.
I'm saying, does it in some sense distort the level playing field between the Indian defense manufacturers versus the foreign players who will obviously be eyeing the Indian pie now with 100% FDI in defense being allowed?
No, wait a minute. Here what we are trying to say is we'll definitely want to bring in a level playing field. It is not as if the conditions were laid to us saying unless you do this we are not going to come in, but we should understand that if there is technology coming in, technology coming in with investment cannot come in when completely you're sealing it at 49 and saying come what may, that is all, the rest of the 51 will be with Indian hands. Cannot be a situation in exceptional cases also. So we are very clear that by keeping the national security requirement in place, state-of-the-art technology, that expression has been removed, modern technology is what we are going to be using, so that there is clarity in the policy. With modern technology coming in, we think in defense sector, India's manufacturing capability will be fully used to its potential. We do not want to undermine that potential, and therefore we have made this
no, but how do you, the domestic manufacturers and also the issue of technology transfer? Because that was something which was a critical component, saying that you will share technology. Now,
but
is
now
that
100% is allowed? So
yeah, but with 100% being applied, will the manufacturers, when they set up shop here, will they also transfer technology, or will they continue to hold the rights to technology? Because they might manufacture in India.
See, yes. You will have greater clarity on specifics such as this, because what the policy now says is 49% through automatic route, the next 49% up to 100 will be going through certain approval requirements, and the details of which will certainly be given out when the policy is elaborated in terms of the rules which will govern them. So wait a few days more, you will get greater clarity on these sort of things.
Ma'am, there was a big demand from the retail industry, and the single brand retailers were requesting you for months now that their local sourcing norms should be eased, and I think you've done that. Would you just expound upon that a little bit, exactly what has happened, because I think retailers across the board would want to know on this one.
The local sourcing norms have not been completely thrown out of the window, as you've seen it. We have said that for such goods which come with state-of-the-art goods, as I keep repeating that expression, but although that's out of the paper, but you know what we mean, that when unique products come in, we do not want a local sourcing requirement to immediately put them off, but We have said the first 3 years you could do it here without those norms, but gradually, in percentages, in proportionate terms, gradually you would have to comply with it. 4th year, 5th year onwards, you will have to do it. And therefore, we have not completely done away with the local sourcing requirements, but only given the first 3 years so that they can set it up and gradually comply with it.
So does Apple need to reapply for a nod to be given?
Well, the norms have been expounded now. I guess, yes, it will mean that they can always approach us again. We are not doing the policy for any one particular company, but whoever wishes to apply, whoever wishes to contact us again on this, they can approach the government.
Is this the final question, Ms. Sitharaman? Is this going to be backed with ease of, how are you going to work in terms of ease of doing business, in terms of people who are ready to invest now, given you're relaxing the norms, but how are you going to match the ease of doing business, of setting up shop, of coming in, this money coming in for them setting up? That was a yes. And do we see a drop in interest rates?
Business is an ongoing activity. We are, as you know, in the first year we had identified 98 critical things on which states cooperated with us, and they removed the hurdles on those identified 98 categories. The subsequent years we have come up with, this year we have come up with about 340, which all of them are happy to comply with. So the ease of doing business is not something which is a concluded exercise. We shall be working on it. The ease of doing business is a high priority. Make in India initiative really depends on ease of doing business, and that shall continue. This policy on FDI that we've come up with is to continue the exercise which we started in November 2015, keeping in mind the Make in India and ease of doing business as the priority for this government. Because through Make in India and ease of doing business, we want to make India a manufacturing hub. And that cannot be lost out on everything that we're doing. We remember that everywhere.
Is there an interest?
Thank you.
Ms. Sitharaman, Supriya has a few more questions. Thank you for talking to us here on Times Now. I'm just going to hand it over to Supriya.
I have one final question, ma'am, and I'm going to wrap it up after this. I have one final question to you, and that question really has to do with the narrative that began this morning, and it looks like your government has been able to do a lot of damage control with this announcement. Was Raghuram Rajan's exit and the damage it would have caused one of the reasons why you decided to announce this path-breaking policy decisions today?
Supriya, I have answered this before, but I will certainly say it again. These are things which don't happen overnight. They cannot be decisions taken on these major initiatives, major reform-based steps overnight. Nothing can happen within 24 hours. These are things on which we've been working last few months. And once the natural conclusion, logical end was reached, we have announced the policy. It so happens it is today.
Well, the timing couldn't have been more perfect for the government per se. The political message coming in with the economic reforms. Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, thank you very much for talking to us here on ET Now and on Times Now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for being with us.
Bye-bye.